Incoming. Welcome to From the Bunker, Episode 5. We're here with Eric Strand, the War Murals Project.
I was a veteran of the Minnesota National Guard for 10 years. I got out in the end of 2019, where I served in a finance detachment. So I was a finance manager. We ran the finance office out at Camp Beering, Kuwait from 2018, 2019. Went out to remote FOBs, made sure soldiers are getting paid right, make money as a weapon system in its own right, and making sure that cash can flow freely on the battlefield to achieve those tactical objectives and help with the day-to-day stuff for troops needing haircuts and anything else, supporting those eco cash guards too. So I did that for 10 years, got some great experiences out of it, paid for school, right, which is important, kind of how I got into it in the first place. And right towards the end, there was a weird time with Operation Inherent Resolve, the conflict in Syria, Iraq. There was the announced withdrawal that no one was aware of in December. Secretary of Defense resigned. No one really knew what was going on for a couple months. And my tempo was just like go, go, go for the first, probably 7 months of the deployment. We were always on the go. When everything had to be reoriented, suddenly things slowed down. I didn't really have like a job anymore. We were kind of just stuck in the purgatory that is Camp Beering and Kuwait without a whole lot else to do. So I love reading and history. I was trying to read up on things, and I started taking pictures of the T-walls out of Camp Beering and at Camp Arif John at the time. And I remember traveling all over theater, right? Like anywhere money needs to go is where me or one of my teams would be. And there was always like graffiti, always art, something that like when you're moving fast, you appreciate it and it humors you, just to kind of get like a pulse on what the morale and bickering is going on out there at the time. But when things finally slowed down, I started trying to find ways to keep myself busy and sane. Took pictures of the walls, at first from my own collection and awareness. And then I started looking around the internet, and like no one else was really doing it at the time. There was a group that was active in Iraq about 10 years prior, but it had been real quiet since. So I just went to the USO tent and got my computer up. I knew absolutely nothing about starting a website, but started the website, put photos on there, and started jumping into like vet forums and online. And it's kind of just started snowballing from there. So War Murals Project's been around for like 5 years now. I'm always getting vets sending, pictures of their graffiti, their T-walls, telling their story, trying to tie it to a news article if we can, to just like use the art as a platform to tell the story of a very long and confusing war. You get to jump in almost as little vignettes of, what someone's fight or experience looked like all over the last, 20 plus years of the GWAT. Focus on art made by the troops for the troops, and the graffiti and memorials included in there. And I think that's a really good way to tell the story, connect with veterans to remind them of like the good times with their buddies, and then help the public kind of understand what was really going on, because maybe all you'd see is like, the 15 seconds of combat footage and a couple of highlights on the news, and then you drift out of it again. But it was a long grind for a lot of people, and I think it's a really good way to help people connect, understand. I run a digital art archive now where submissions are put in and you can map and explore throughout the Middle East, where people served, what was going on at that time, tell the story of the unit. Eventually, I'll get my act together to get a book together on that. but it's been really cool to follow and rewarding. It's definitely like struck a nerve that it's kind of a missing piece of like modern military history.
Oh yeah. I think we got turned on to you from the Nasty Guard podcast. I think I like had put up something like in one of our original posts for Bunker Bros, from one of our walls that we did in Syria, and he's like, "Oh, you should send that over to War Murals." And I was like, "Oh, what's that?" So like I went over there, checked out your site, and I was like, "Oh man, that's actually pretty sweet." But I remember like my first deployment, we took like some ground in the push back into Mosul, and eventually started moving in like porta potties and all that stuff. And of course, with the porta potties comes like all the drawings and all the shit talking on the doors and stuff like that. And that was like my first intro into it. So like I saw your page and like all those memories started flooding back, and I thought that was super cool that like having like a connection to like someone else's memories on like T walls or porta potties or whatever it is, like that art that those soldiers just put there because they're bored or they want to be a part of that place forever. That was pretty cool. So you said you were in for 10 years and you got out in 2019. So you joined
Mm-hmm.
up in 2009?
Yeah, just at the very end of that. Yeah, I almost went Marines right out of high school with a couple of buddies. Um, you know, the I also got into college, figured I'd give that a shot, and then I got there and I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing here, how I'm going to pay for it. So I can at least do the guard, get it paid for. And at the time, I thought I wanted to be a cop. Um, so I wanted to be a military policeman. The hang up there was I'm colorblind. So even despite our best efforts with my recruiter to pass that test, I still got held back. So at the time, they said I could be a cook, a truck driver, finance. Um, finance seemed like the best option. I didn't really know anything about it at the time, but jumped into that. At 19, went to basic and Army finance school, and started drilling with the unit here in Minnesota. And it was interesting just to see like even over that time, like the layers and different experiences the soldiers had there. We had people that like had deployed to Kosovo, Iraq at least once. That was already talking about deploying to like Afghanistan. And so like it's a small unit. It's a detachment that always gets like usually broken up and sent to all these different locations or attached to a higher headquarters. So everyone's together doing the same mission, but like experiences varied significantly between people too. Um,
It's interesting that
I
you had the option to be a driver with being colorblind, like with the different
yeah,
color lights and
I
shit
don't
that are inside of the
know.
trucks that you really need to be keeping track of. It's interesting that they put that out there for you still.
Yeah, well, it's probably because like I just confused the difference between the stoplights, right? It'd just be a disaster. Um,
Oh, you can get it though. That's not bad. It's
oh,
the army, dude.
yeah,
See
yeah.
that's what we thought
Even
was the problem in Syria. Like that we did, there were no stoplights. We would always joke with our PL about that on patrols, being like, this place wouldn't be so bad. I really feel like there'd be a lot more order if they just started putting stoplights in there. We start investing in stoplights for this country. I really feel like we could turn it around.
oh no, I don't think stoplights are still just kind of guidelines. Even in I remember driving in like Kuwait, and we went to Qatar for a little bit, um, and like I mean when I was there for a while, like more soldiers were getting killed on the roads trying to drive from base to base. Um, like in Kuwait, it's just choose your own adventure. There's traffic. Everyone's doing 150 to get ahead of traffic. Drive in the lane. Ambulance can't even get to the crash that everyone caused because they're driving 150 miles an hour.
That
Um,
place is wild. Driving there and like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, those drivers are insane. Like it's like 6 lanes of traffic and everyone just chooses their own speed and everyone's like super close. There's trucks all over the place and there's like people on horses and camels and like people walking through the street all the time. It is insane. People think it's bad in like Detroit. Go driving in like Kuwait, bro.
No, it's nasty. There was like some really terrible accidents on that road just trying to get from Beering to Arif Jan or driving all the way to like Al Jaber, the Marine base. in Kuwait, and anything goes. If there's traffic, they've got those giant Toyota Highlanders that'll just go off road into the sand. It's not really a tow truck service, right? So if a car even like gets burned out or crashes on the side, they leave it there for a good while, let the trash build up. Qatar too is like a really strange place. I don't know if you spent a lot of time there, but like all of those stadiums being built up for the World Cup, it's like 50,000 seat stadiums all being built in the same city at the same time. It's just wild.
So you kind of touched on it a little bit. So 2009 is kind of an interesting time to join because that was before we pulled out of Iraq for like the second ish time. Why 2009?
Why I got in, it was just as I graduated high school. Went to college, a small state college here in Minnesota, to try it out. But yeah, you're right. It was a really weird time to join. There was tons of bonus money. It was right after the surge, and in Minnesota, it was right after what they called the long one, where they had a bunch of guys deployed in 2004 were gone for 24 plus months between pre-mob, 12 months of deployment, and then the extension for the surge, right? So you had guys that hadn't been home in 26 months coming back just as the financial crisis was hitting, and like they were just hemorrhaging people for years afterwards. So tons of opportunity. If you could see all colors of the spectrum, there was tons of opportunity and lots of bonus money out there.
Unlike now, where there's zero.
Yeah. And then people were real salty at the time. So learned a lot. It was weird. The couple guys I knew that joined right out of high school, they went into the Marines, and one of them got messed up like in Afghanistan about a year after he graduated. And I remember another one, he was 20 years old, really struggling with PTSD. It was just like, it was kind of surreal to be like, this could have been my experience, if things had gone a different way. But instead I wound up in finance and went from being a cop to economics. I work in supply chain now. And that's been an interesting couple of years on its own. But
so you do the War Mules thing as like a side gig. You actually have like a whole nother career.
Oh yeah. It's a hobby. It can certainly take up more time than that to keep up with things.
Yeah.
I should be probably more organized than I am, but everyone's got a story to share. I've only just found out that there's like a whole T-wall painting tradition culture at like Camp McGregor in Fort Bliss for all the pre-mob stuff.
Yeah, there's a ton of it.
It's like there's all of these different iterations that go, it depends how far you want to go back, like the Kilroy of World War II and naming tanks and airplane nose art. Tons of graffiti and signs for like in front of foxholes in Korea and Vietnam. Like, if there's people that are looking for like a niche of history to pursue, like, you can really take this as far as you can go. It's not really getting the attention it probably deserves, but this is what I've been doing right now to keep up with it.
So like the appreciation of visual art, do you have any like visual art background? Do you, paint, draw, anything like that?
No, not really. I appreciate history, and I like love to know the story behind the art, right? Like in Kuwait, there'd be T-walls over like, all the way back to 2003. If you went to other bases, they go all the way back to like the 90s, right? In Operation Southern Watch. And all of that is searchable. You can drill in from there. So one really cool thing about War Murals is like, I don't know what someone's going to send me, the story that they're going to tell about what's going on behind it, or, even just doing a couple of Google searches of like that specific unit and time period, see what comes up. What's become really cool is just coming in like 10 plus years later into like Facebook groups and old like veteran forums, right? Like there's these little digital islands there. Like people have left that community, but all those posts and comments are still there. Like all these war blogs from like 2006, 7, 8. There's still quite a few of them either on the Internet Archive or WordPress um, that you can drill into and just get like basically a day-to-day diary of someone and what they were up to at that time.
So do you do
It's
that?
becoming
You go back into like comments and old pages and stuff, and you find like old pictures and comments and bios and stories, and kind of like pull those into the project.
yeah. I'm a history nerd. That was what I minored in and really wanted to learn about. But yeah, there's all sorts of rabbit holes in there to see what's going on, or maybe it's like just a hint at something else to look into. Um, one recent post that became really popular was that Burger King um, trailer at
Oh yeah.
Bagram Air
Yeah.
Base. I don't know if you saw that post, but that thing resonated. It's just like it speaks volumes on its own, just like the power projection of the United States government to be able, and like air power to be able to um, deploy a Burger King with like staff that can run it to any theater within like, I mean, not 24 hours, right? But real fast when other nations, you'll see comments jump in because I'll see my posts get shared to like British and Australian, Canadian veterans, and they're just like furious. Like we couldn't even like they couldn't even get rations on their fob, and they're back there with the Burger King. Um, so you just get like little snapshots of that, and like I just pull the thread and see where it goes, or see where someone like throws a little bit more information on one of like those old Facebook groups where a lot of the early Iraq and Afghanistan vets are. Because what I'm trying to understand is if that Burger King trailer was also the Burger King trailer that was in front of the Pentagon after the 9/11 attacks. I'm trying to get confirmation of that because my understanding is that Burger King trailer in Afghanistan is the same one that was outside the recovery operations of the Pentagon. Like
Huh.
that Burger King trailer should be in a museum, right?
That's actually really cool. I had no idea. So that trailer, the picture, because I do know what post you're talking about. It was what, a week or two
Mhm.
ago, something like that. And it was like the
Yeah,
scariest part of the U.S. military is the ability to deploy a Burger King in a war zone in so many hours or whatever.
right.
Was that actually like at Bagram?
Oh yeah,
I don't. I
yeah.
was at
So
Bagram
you,
in 1920, and I'm trying to remember. Like, I don't remember. I don't think it was there, or I was on like I was on the west side, and Warrior was on the east side, which is like where most of the U.S. personnel were. So it could have been on that
Mhm.
side. But now I'm trying to remember, and I can't remember.
But you got to remember, Burke. It seems like this trailer was in high demand, so you
Yeah,
know
yeah. Apparently,
it's basically like the Playmate of the Year doing the USO tour. Like she had places to be, she just couldn't hang out.
they built a real one, probably.
yeah, it's cool to just like use the art, or in that case that Burger King trailer picture, and just everyone's like, it's kind of a digital museum is how I think of it, and everyone's like, walking through the museum, looking at the art gallery, and you just kind of see everyone's comment there, staring at that piece of art or that photograph. So people are piling in with the comments, and the hope is to either talk about what it was like with your buddies there. That's always like an important part of the deployment, right? Is social media will incentivize like that hardcore combat footage, which for a lot of dudes is probably some of the worst days of their life. For some of them, it might be like pump adrenaline and they're really living. But it's you know my deployment overall, like I was tired and it was stressful, but mostly it was just really boring. And it's really hard to talk about that on any other medium. But like the T walls, the porta potties, the bunkers, right? Kind of what you guys are doing. There's like nothing more unifying or ubiquitous for a conflict that's gone on for so long. Um, so everyone's kind of like got that feeling and story to it, which I think is important for just trying to build community and understanding.
So we had like, you know, BPs, I guess they weren't towers. We had towers, but they're called towers, but they weren't towers. They're more like battle positions, and they were made out of wood. So like our soldiers started doing like their art on the inside of them. And obviously, soldiers being soldiers, a lot of it got pretty inappropriate, and having co-ed like infantry platoons now, it became kind of a
Mm-hmm.
problem. So obviously, the army being the army, instead of allowing the art to kind of go on as long as it was appropriate, they just slashed the art. So like they painted the inside of the towers black and um, pretty much anything else that could be drawn on. It was just like it was a no go. So if you were to talk to the powers that be, sergeant majors, the battalion commanders, brigade commanders, about the importance of keeping some of this around, what would you say?
Um, I mean, I get it. Like, there's a ton of inappropriate stuff. It's trying to be, a big inclusive army um, for everyone, right? Like, I even now I still get like I never know what's gonna be the message received when people send me a photo. Like, it's a lot of just like dick drawings and other very like inappropriate stuff. And you could take that and run with it. There is an Instagram page out there that I forward a bunch of that um, stuff to, called Military Porta Art, I think is the page. Because I don't want that to be a distraction. Like, no, I totally get it. Like, there can be some just um, cruel and unusual graffiti in there, right? Like, there's examples of the graffiti where people are just like challenging their commanders. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Commanders responding like, if you really feel that way, come and talk to me, you coward.
Mm-hmm.
There's photos like that out there. So like, almost those porta potties are almost just like an internet message for them. Like, you kind of need to moderate them because they'll get toxic real quick. And that graffiti is just as much a indicator of the morale on the ground as anything else. Like, what can't be said out loud often gets said there. Um, I don't know what the right answer is. Probably not just none at all, because there's a long history tradition there. I think that's being recognized. There are museums in the U.S. that have taken those whole T walls home. Um, the Danish Army Museum has a porta potty in its exhibit. They recreated all the graffiti that the soldiers created inside. So like, anyone visiting the museum can walk in there and not get the smells or the feeling and the heat of it, but maybe you can get a picture of what it's like to walk into a 120-degree porta potty in the Middle East. So it's definitely important and needs to be preserved. Um, but even the T-wall art, you need approval for almost anything in Kuwait. They're trying to get rid of it at Camp Arifjan for like, it's unprofessional. It's not uniform. Um, but I think just like, let them have that outlet, right? Like, those T walls in a world of uniformity where everyone has to have the same haircut and the same like kit. Um, you know, God forbid you have a boonie hat or something, right? Like, everything needs to be the same. Like, let that be a creative outlet for people to say like, we were here. This is what we did. This is like what was important to us. Um, there's memorials too. This is who we remember. This is who we want to honor. Um, they definitely like should encourage that in some way, especially for places that have been there for as long as they have. Um, yeah, the answer isn't like kill off like all opportunity and creativity. Um, I don't know. I wish we could have nice things, but
But it's the army.
yeah.
So you run this whole thing by yourself? I was reading your task and purpose article a little while ago, and
Mhm.
to the listeners, if you guys are interested in the War Murals project and you want to learn more about it, go to task and purpose, and he has it listed on his Instagram on his little link tree there, and you can read the article. And I think the article's from around 2020, isn't it? 2019, 2020?
Yeah, I think it's either December 31st or January 1st. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've been doing it for about at that point 7 months that had really been going on. Like just before I left, I created the website, and it started just bouncing around. Internet forums, Reddit, Facebook, right? People would take an interest in it. Um, David Rose at Task and Purpose took an interest in it, and it was really cool to see the response. It like blew up. I was working full time at the time, but it turned into like a part time job for how many photos and messages came in there. Um, so I knew I had to keep sharing it or at least keep up with what had already been sent. People were eager to show their photo, tell their stories. Definitely struck a nerve. So there is a lot of content and like two websites out there. I do some 3D printing, recreating the T walls. If people want to support the page and also want their like own souvenir, because that becomes another thing of like those mini T walls. I don't know if like you ever saw them, right? They were pretty popular for gifts and souvenirs. There's a lot of guys that either there's broke, lost it. Um, if they want to support the work that we do and have a little something in return, that's what we're trying to do there to support the site because I mean it's not free and it does take time to keep up with everything. But there's tons of niche pages there. I also run and don't give it the attention that it should have, but there's an Instagram page called Foxhole Friends that I don't know if you've seen that one, but um, a follower of War Murals who was kind of inspired started just collecting all of the deployment pets people have. Especially on the remote fobs, everyone's got that like kitten or dog, right? That would be around the fob, um, and usually a story to go along with it. So that becomes kind of its own space to talk about. Like I don't have art, but this is like a warm memory that I had. Um, it's adorable to hear just like what people named their stray dogs that would wander onto the fob and stuff, right? You've got like Flip Flop and Rip It and all sorts of stuff. Um, so just trying to explore the overlooked, culture of being deployed. I've done a couple
so
series just on like deployment. Yeah, go ahead.
so do you have something to do with Foxhole Friends, or you, like?
I run the page now. Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah.
Holy shit. We talk to you relatively often too. Like we send you all those pictures of Dobby from Syria.
Yeah, Dobby.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
like, what's
What
her real name?
um,
Lucy. Lucy.
Yeah,
Lucy?
that
I've heard of Lucy and Dobby, but yeah, it was cool to see like just one pet kind of handed off from unit to unit. It seems like, um, and like people have very strong feelings towards leadership of policies towards those pets too. Um, I don't know what was the attitude towards Dobby or Lucy the Doberman when you were there.
It
our
was
leadership was okay with it. I think it was the incoming leadership that was
yeah,
the
outgoing
exact
leadership
opposite.
when we ripped in was a no-go. But so Lucy was actually owned by the locals. So she was kind of
Mhm.
like protected and safe because like we can't really touch it, you know what I'm saying? So that was like
Yeah,
cool with all like the Joes, obviously. They're like, holy shit, we have a dog. And she kind of like had free reign of like, uh, we're not gonna say the name of it, but this dog had free reign of we'll say cop, because I don't know what else to call it without giving it away. But
sure.
she a couple times like got in trouble. She like jumped in the shit pound because like used to like pump all like the waste into like this one like huge pit, and she would jump in
Mhm.
there to cool off, and we were like, dude, you're gonna spread all the diseases, whatever diseases there are on this earth, you have them. And so a couple times like exactly what command thought or afraid was gonna happen did happen, and we're pretty sure she started some pretty gnarly like black plagues.
Yeah,
But she was definitely like she was goofy. She was like one of those dogs that like she had like a crazy personality where if like you saw a room full of Dobermans, you'd be like, that's Lucy, because she was like hopping around. She had this big floppy ears. She was just like not a care in the world. I don't want to say stupid, but she was dumb. Like she was she was out there. But like the guys loved her. She like walk around at night, visit them in the towers and
Yeah,
stuff
she
like
visited
that.
us at towers all the time.
Yeah.
She knew where every one of them were. She'd pop in. I mean, it was sunny as hell, hot as hell. So she would come in at the ECP that I was at most of the time and just be like laying underneath the shelf, just getting some shade. Yeah,
It
my
was
That
buddy.
definitely a
was that
morale
was
boost.
super. It was super cool to see. I have a floppy-eared Doberman at my house too, so like it hit me right in the feelings for like I wish I had a dog. My dog died while I was on deployment, so like
uh
hit me right in the feelings. But
well,
it's
there's
super cool that they
Doberman
were.
puppies at the cop. Well, we can get you one mailed.
Oh yeah, you
Yeah,
know a guy who knows a guy, huh?
I know a guy who's there right now.
yeah, she
No,
was fun. She
that's
would like
awesome.
chase the SOG trucks as we were getting dropped off at towers. You know, you got a
Oh God, the
Hilux.
heart
Just
attacks, bro. I'd be driving
yeah,
that stick shift that I barely know how to drive, and she'd like run out in front of me, like slam on the brakes. Oh my God,
yeah.
killing me. Love that dog though.
Did you just feed her MREs and stuff, or what did you? What did she eat?
Oh, she would tear first of all tear up all the trash, but we had a cook, and he would like buy all the local food, and we'd cook it right there, in kind of like a defect thing. And then like
Mhm.
chow would have like a set time everyone comes and picks up like basically a to-go plate, and that's your food for the day or whatever. And then I'm sure they were feeding her because she knew exactly when chow was. She'd be like right outside that door,
Hmm.
and
Mhm.
she would definitely get in the garbage because we'd pile up all the garbage during the day. The locals were supposed to come get it and dispose of it. We won't even get into that, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And probably like 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it'd be like all the bags are just torn apart, whether it was like the stray cats or Dobby. Like, I was a mess every time, but she was definitely well fed. Definitely. Chicken,
No,
rice, cheese shawarma.
Yeah, I'd
That dog.
always
that's
toss her
awesome.
some Vienna sausages. She loved those.
One of the did wherever you were at, have you ever looked back at like that location and looked to see if there's Google reviews for that location? Because that's become one of my favorite little niches too. It's just going back
No.
to like the Kandahar Poo Pond. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
Uh huh.
um, that's got like 200 Google reviews. It's got 5 stars and like 60 comments on it. Um, the
You actually
best
messaged
Google
me like,
review.
I think probably a month ago. We kind of talked about this on Instagram a little bit because you sent me one,
Mhm.
and I was like, oh, I totally forgot those exist. But like, Matt, you might know the one from Fort Bliss at McGregor Range. Like, there's a Rattlesnake Ridge.
Yep.
So like when you're doing the mounted gunnery, like everyone's
Yep.
in the trucks doing the mounted gunnery and shit. There's a Google review for that for Rattlesnake Ridge where it just says 1 star, not enough rattlesnakes.
The best Google review I think I ever came across. Like my first time in Iraq traveling was just right. We were at this fob, and the only like MWR that was available really was the chapel, and the chaplain was running a Wi-Fi network. The Wi-Fi network was called a signal from God. We were able to
Oh yeah.
we logged into the network. And you can like see your location right there on like Google when it comes up, and scroll over just a little bit. We were right on the Iraq border, and you can look at the Syria-Iraq border crossing. Like 1 year earlier, there was like 1 star. ISIS is here, and I was like, that's probably the most legitimate Google review I've ever seen.
There was a Google review when I was at Airborne. So we just finished our 22-week cycle, and we were at Benning, and my wife came in because I had a basically like a weekend, and we were looking for some food. There was a Chinese spot on Post. I had 2 reviews, 2.5 stars. One of them was 5 stars and it said excellent, and the other one was 1 star and said terrible. We're like, okay, so let's roll the dice on this, or what? Let's go get some chicken instead, or but that'll
So are
pop up in
you
my
starting
memories.
to are you starting to incorporate these Google reviews into the project?
No, there was, I really like it when I like. There's been a couple pages that have come and gone that like War Murals has inspired. There was one on Instagram you can still find called Wartime Reviews, and I tried to encourage them to like be a contributor to the archive, and it could just be like its own exhibit, digital exhibit. But they went through like probably 25 different locations in Iraq and Afghanistan, just looking at the reviews and copying like the top remarks to just get a snapshot of those, because some of them are just hilarious. Like I don't know, I think there's one for like a fob in the Korangal Valley in Afghanistan. It's like absolutely gorgeous. Should be a national park. Wish the locals were a little nicer and would stop shooting at us, or something like that. So it only got like 4 stars.
Now, when you started this out, I'm guessing it was like a nice learning process at the beginning, but did you run into much trouble with early posts or anything that you would share?
No, there wasn't really trouble with it. I learned pretty quickly to like, if I'm not certain of information, be careful, because like nothing will get reactions on the internet faster than if your information is wrong, even somewhat. Like, I don't. I try to do due diligence, but like I don't know if like one regiment moved from one brigade to another in like 2009, right? I try to work with the information that I have at hand. So people will jump on that pretty quickly. For social media, that's good for driving engagement, but probably isn't like the best practice for being diligent about that. But
Yeah, I
just
guess it just attracts the wrong kind of energy.
yeah. You know, the world is tough enough as it is, and social media sucks. You know, War Murals is a great, like Instagram is a great platform for War Murals. It's image driven, but um, you know, trying to foster context, give context, history, background, understanding. It's just it doesn't want you to do any of that. It doesn't want you to like remember previous posts. Like everything I do gets backed up onto Facebook, but pages are taken down arbitrarily. Like I'll get warnings for something inappropriate. There was like one that got my page banned for a little bit because someone sent me a bunker graffiti of a T-Rex eating Taliban, and like the most crudely drawn T-Rex. But like, Meta doesn't like that. So I got a warning. No guns, right? Most of the time that's not a problem because it's almost all art depictions. But you'll get warnings about that. So that's why I try to back up everything onto the archive and separate website too.
I will say that
Because
link tree is quite the rabbit hole to
Yeah.
fall into.
Oh yeah.
I got lost in that thing for quite a while at work the other day.
Dude, I was in there for like 2 hours the first time I visited your page.
Yeah,
I
I felt
was
like I was
just
wasn't even scratching the surface. There's a whole lot to really dig through.
yeah, there's a really cool, like, I've been trying to just be like, a positive, like positive influence in community. Like if I see someone trying to do something like, niche and unique, like the internet needs more weirdos, not just like people sharing the same memes over and over again. So like there's a really great like mapping project where this retired geographer is trying to map every single fob and cop airfield, whatever, in Afghanistan. I think that's in the link tree still,
yeah.
if you
Yeah,
haven't
it
seen
was.
that. And then like the Canadian War Museum, I think that group is called, with like a group called Project Athena. They're not only trying to map every base, but map the units that were there and the missions and activities, starting with Canadians in like Kandahar province, but build out from there. They've got some like really cool stuff coming down the pipeline for, they have one map built out where you can see where every IED placement was over like a 2 week mission. And then like little like notes of different like battlefield reports and sitrets that situation reports that they'd collected. Like there's some really cool stuff coming down the pipeline. Um, yeah, I actually started the archive because like the original War Murals website, I just used like Wix or like Squarespace is another platform I'm familiar where you build your own website. And I took like a real estate platform for like, here's the location, here's the
Okay.
photos you can have for the location. I took one of those templates and tried to build out the gallery like that. It became a huge pain. But I live in Minnesota. So like less than a year after I came home, the George Floyd happened, and there were like the riots and curfew down here. Um, it was surreal to be like, oh, like I was in the Guard and I was deployed. A year later, it's like helicopters over my head for like 2 weeks straight. There's like National Guard companies staging on my block to like be ready to patrol for the night to enforce the curfew, and like I'm not with that at all. But so that was like a surreal experience. But the silver lining to that was there was a ton of like protest art and street art created. So like tons of businesses and houses like put like plywood and stuff over the windows, right? And that kind of like the T-walls and bunkers, right, became its own canvas, inviting people to express themselves in like beautiful ways, really crude ways, right? And there's a university here in St. Paul that I connected with shortly afterwards because they kept set up their own mapping archive to just all this stuff came down, but we had thousands of artists and hundreds of people taking photos of that art, and they started mapping and like creating this digital gallery. And that university, I talked to the professor of art history. They showed me how to set up the archive and were really supportive of like guidance on how to meta tag things correctly, how to present things and create the exhibits to really help it grow in that way, to help me be a lot more organized than I was.
That's awesome.
So you were like,
Cool.
are you in Twin Cities or St. Paul or?
Yeah, I live in St. Paul.
Okay. Yeah,
People are going to listen to this and think that we're the same because this is the only Midwesterner we've ever interviewed so far. They're going to be like, oh, these people sound the same.
Oh no,
I mean,
Minnesota,
if you like, I could ham up the Midwestern accent. Right?
Please don't.
I've been to the UP.
I don't know.
You guys are trolls, right? You live under the bridge. So is that why you're Hellcat Matt for Hellcat Records?
Not necessarily the record company, but it like goes further back, like just being rockabilly, psychobilly kind of thing. Like Hellcats were,
He's the Hellcat Matt band. That's how it ended up being Hellcat Matt.
Yeah, that was like my name's Matt Smith, so I couldn't just go around being Matt Smith touring like in whatever band I was in, so I had to kind of
I mean, isn't there a band called the Smiths? They did okay.
Yeah,
they did fine. Yeah,
yeah, they did all right.
It was a one-hit wonder, right?
Yeah.
You'll still remember Burke when you're famous.
You better be.
Oh yeah.
Better.
Well, Bunker Bros aren't going to die either, so I think we might just start a band called Bunker Bros after a while.
Whoa, it's a good band.
Trademarked.
It's a good band.
Don't worry, I know the guy. But
so
yeah,
Eric,
sorry to get off track, but yeah.
Yeah.
I was really curious
about. You warned us.
I told you.
You warned us about tangents, but this is a good one.
I was really curious about the Minnesota stuff.
So Eric, I'm curious, what's the future of War Murals? I know you got your I don't want to call it geolocating, but it's kind of geolocating. But other than that, what do you got going in the future?
I'm still working on the 3D printed stuff. Like I have probably 80% of a book together. I think it'd make a great coffee table book. There's really not one else out there. And I think like if that can be used to tell the story, the Global War on Terror Memorial is getting going. they need like $100 million in order to build it for some reason. But like, I think it would be a good way to, contribute to that, tell the story, connect to it. What's really bitten me in the ass. I think you can bleep it out.
You
I don't
can
know if
say
you can
ass.
swear
We
on
don't
this.
care. We don't give
Okay.
a fuck.
Well, what's really bitten me in the ass is, I've talked to publishers. Like, I don't have a full count, but there's at least like 3,000 photos from like the last 20 years that, maybe a third of them are on the website right now. Maybe some more because it's just easier on the Facebook page. But, um, there's a ton of different stories and opportunities there. But what really has hamstrung me was I don't have like release forms or permission. So it's seen as like a legal risk if you don't get outright permission to publish. Like, posting on Instagram or Facebook is different, right? It's not for my profit; it's for like Meta, Facebook, Instagram's profit, right? So somehow it's different. But I would need to chase down like hundreds of release forms to really get that together.
So
And that's something where like,
what's the fear of? So are you afraid of
well, there's like
releasing the
copyright
T-wall
and
picture?
ownership issues. Yeah. So people will
Oh,
send me photos on the internet, and then I didn't do like my due diligence, right? It's hard to
mm-hmm.
find those people on the internet again, or get people to respond. So the story that I think I would want to tell is different from like the story that I think I would be allowed to tell. So that just becomes like, where do I spend my time and energy? Like, people are still sending photos, they're still resonating with the page. So I'll keep telling that story because like I have a full-time job and like a family and stuff. Like, where do I spend my energy, and where is it more entertaining to spend my energy than sending a bunch of emails trying to find people. Um, that's kind of how I think about it. But I mean, I think I have most of it done. I would love to have it together, but um, yeah, I've got other stuff going on. So I like I'm in a veteran book club, right? I don't know if you've seen like Lethal Minds or Patrol Base Abate, but I'll use that to either tell stories on Lethal Minds, or I'm part of the Patrol Base Abate book club. So we'll like right now we're going through East of Eden, piece by piece, month by month. So anyone that's served wants to join a book club, like, let me know. It's a great community and experience to connect with a bunch of people. Um, I'll be hosting a book club for Zinky Boys about the Soviet experience in Afghanistan in April. I think it is when it is. So it's a bunch of like short stories and experiences from Soviet veterans. Because a really cool like additional wrinkle, right, is a ton of fobs that Americans occupied during the War on Terror are the same ones that were like built by the Soviets and occupied for like 10 years. Um, so sometimes
Bagram.
you'll get like little snapshots. Yeah, Bagram, Kandahar, um, a ton of like the fobs in Kandahar province were just like reoccupied from the Soviets. So it's really cool to just see, what it was like even 20 years prior. Is what I hope to talk about with that. Um, but yeah, just trying to build community. Maybe eventually I'll take some days off of work and really focus on it instead of just making a Facebook post, doing some focus work to get after it. But
Hey man, I gotta give you a shout out real quick,
yeah,
because you are like one of like the good vet pages, and we talked about this with like the Nasty Yard podcast, ADOS, a couple other guys. Like, there's like, and it's bad. Like, there's few and far between finding good vet pages, and like I think there's a
yeah,
lot of them out there, but like there's a lot of bad ones, dude. It's a toxic place, and like especially like the social media side of like the veteran community is toxic.
mm-hmm.
But like we give you props because like you're one of the good ones, and we want to see you succeed. And no matter like obviously we want to grow, and we want everyone else to succeed around us, and all our vet friends to succeed. And like
Mhm.
you guys, like the Nasty Guard, you, Ados's page, Tacti Platty. Yeah, it's hard to say that, but like they're like good pages, and we appreciate you like taking the time to talk to smaller pages like us and like spreading your word, because we think you're a good cause and we really want to see this succeed. So you should finish that book, because I would put it on my coffee table. And I think like sharing the stories from places like I've been, it's hard to do like just one man trying to like explain or show pictures, but what you're doing is important. And I think having something that I could like be like, hey, just take a look at this. There you go. It's on the coffee table. We're all drinking here anyway. Why not? And then everyone else takes a look at it. I think it is going to help a lot of dudes. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to spread like an awareness that there's outlets that vets, current service members can reach into, that's really going to make a difference in the end.
Also, a
So
lot of
we,
respect to the amount of time that you have to put into
oh yeah,
uh, just putting the story behind the photos, digging, fact checking, making sure, like, just the due diligence. But on the scale that you've done it at is, I mean, that's incredibly respectable, especially how you talk about this is your, it's your part. It's not your full time gig, but with the amount of work that each little thing entails, I mean, it starts to feel like anything but, a full time gig. So lots of respect to how much work that you put into it for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, it's been I've been doing War Murals for almost like 5 years now. So like didn't happen overnight. It's a fun hobby, and I've always been that nerd to you know go down rabbit holes, spend way too much time on Wikipedia. My
I
wife will
think you
make
got
fun
a
of me
little
because
bit more than a hobby right now, brother. I think I
yeah,
think
Yeah,
you're in
no,
deep, dude.
my
yeah,
my wife picks on me quite a bit because I'll like you know I'm that guy that will like I'll like update Wikipedia pages too, like just to like try to tweak that. Um, so I really appreciate that, and um, I said this last year, but I'll try to finish the book this year too. Um, but I see what you guys are doing. I was skeptical at first. Like I've been invited on other podcasts, and I like wanted to see a couple episodes, see what you guys are doing. Like, there's there's good pages, and we should encourage those people that are trying to like build community, not just trying to get attention, right? And so like you guys are down to earth, genuine, trying to build a community. I hope you go like far with the trying to build like a gamer community, right? If you wanted to do a collaboration with like Patrol Base Abate and like host a couple events where like maybe we just all play Jackbox together, right? That's a really easy entry. To like, I can't imagine like there's probably nothing funnier than like 20 vets trying to play like an ad lib game at the same time. Just to see
It's
what
a good
kind of
idea.
twisted humor we have. But yeah, you guys seem genuine. I love that you're intergenerational. For you have such varied experiences and perspectives, which a lot of pages don't have either. Um, and you're definitely filling like a niche and a void for that pretty poorly understood like Syria, Iraq Operation Inherent Resolve experience that deserves more than a spotlight than it gets. So
yeah. It
like
was the best kept secret for quite a while.
Yeah, OAR. GWA may be over, but OAR is not somehow.
yeah, you get that sweet per diem money. Yeah,
That was that was decent.
Yeah.
yeah. What
So
was
we
it?
got we got the. I don't even know if I want to say it.
I was gonna say, are we allowed to? Should we?
I don't know.
The per
I
diem.
mean,
Yeah,
yeah. What is it?
Okay. I'll say it was more than I like. I was a finance guy, right? Like it was more than it should have been. but
Yeah.
Big
it
time.
was a
Yeah.
great benefit.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about this a lot. Like the infantry, everyone's like, oh, the infantry's going away. It's never gonna come back. Blah blah blah. Obviously, we're both infantry dudes. We are literally the punching bag for every enemy proxy that decides they want to fuck with Americans without really fucking with America. So like everyone
Mhm.
attacks us. That's just how it is. So I think the per diem, and I might get disappeared for saying this. I think the per diem is like bribing us to shut the fuck up.
It's a little
Okay.
hush money. Yeah. We got our daily
Yeah,
hush
it's like,
money.
hey man, like here's an extra, if you just like don't complain about getting bombed all the time and like us not doing anything. So
That's that's interesting to hear. From my experience when we were out there, like the per diem was like a big liability. Like there's nothing more. There's like a saying. I don't know if you say this often, but there's nothing more dangerous than like a a bored soldier, right? Like you get a
oh yeah.
the only thing more dangerous than that is a group of bored soldiers, and a more dangerous thing than that is a group of bored soldiers with money. So if you get like too many guys on a small fob in Iraq or Syria, um, some bad things happen. Like part of my role in finance was to take money off the battlefield. So like everyone has enough, but not too much. And then that like the quality of what is circulating around, is it any good? Because if we take the money in, we can see how it's been circulating because we know like everything that the finance guys give is brand new bills. And everything we take in, we know is old and sketchy. Like we don't know where it came from. Most of it looks legit, but like Iran produces like some of the most counterfeit U.S. cash than like any country in the world. I think maybe Ecuador is second, but like they don't need to create counterfeit current U.S. dollars. They just need to create like old looking bills from like the 90s that look legit in that location, and like those 5, 10, $20 bills will just like circulate around. Occasionally they'll like be picked up as clear counterfeit, but the locals don't know any better. They're just trying to pay bills, and like the Syrian and Iraqi currency is like hardly worth anything, constantly devalued. But like I definitely heard stories about like what soldiers at those fobs in Syria, at least in 17, 18, would be doing with that money. And most of the time they were up to no good. I won't say too much more, but like you should not be running a business from your tent while deployed, right?
Yeah, I can attest. Yeah, I can attest
Yeah,
to that.
yeah. At first I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. Then he just said that, and I was like, okay, yeah, I know
Yep.
exactly what he's talking about. Okay, well, we're coming up on our time here, but we got one more question for you that we ask everybody, and we just want if you could leave 3 items, pieces of advice for soldiers, whoever, whatever. Um, Normally, like guys will be like, oh yeah, like this is my leadership advice for soldiers, but I know you were more in like the artsy history podcast sector now. So if you have, you know, 3 pieces of advice for incoming soldiers, outgoing
Yeah.
soldiers, people who want to preserve history, whatever you got.
Well, the first thing I'll say is if you know War Murals isn't just art graffiti, right? We also, if you have deployment pets, right, you want to tell a story and like keep that memory alive. Um, you know, like share whatever you have. We want like something that's like often overlooked, that can like tell a story about the experience there, to either connect with other veterans or help the public understand what it's like to be deployed, go to war. One of my favorite pieces of graffiti I saw from Syria was it said, I went to war and a garrison broke out." Like I just want like a feeling, like we just want like that undercurrent and tone of like what it's like to be there. Um, so if you have anything to share or a story to contribute, like let us know. That's what War Murals is here for. Um, the second thing I'll say just on like the history side is I really advocate for people to, okay, like first of all, some of the like biggest comments and advice that I get through War Meals is so many people wish that they took more pictures with their buddies. Like take lots of pictures.
Yeah.
Second thing is if you have pictures, share the pictures, right? Like a couple of years ago, I went through the pictures that I had of people that like guys I served with. They had no idea I took that picture. Like share it with your buddies. That's something to connect with. Hopefully it's like a flattering photo, but you should be able to like laugh about it. Third thing I'll say is, okay, you've taken pictures, you've shared your pictures, also print out your pictures. There's a number of people that have reached out to me. They love the page. They're excited to like share the pictures that they took. They have a hard drive in the basement that they haven't touched in 10 years. That hard drive is gone. It's corrupted. It's hard drives are, especially those old ones, are not meant to last, especially without being plugged in more than like 4 or 5 years tops, right? So the days of going into grandpa's basement and opening up the old war trunk and seeing all those photos doesn't exist anymore. So it's getting much harder to remember the conflicts and wars and experiences. So, print those out or have a way to back them up and share them so that, maybe your children or grandchildren can discover them, or you have that story to share where your photos are just owned by like Meta, Facebook, and hopefully you don't get banned for something stupid. So share that. The third thing I'll say is I used to be a squad leader, and I tried to be a good one. Was your job is not just to do what you're told, but your job is to serve your troops the best you can and leave this place a better place than you found it. So when you're training your guys, leading hip pocket training or anything, the intention should be not only to train that they understand, but train well enough that they can tell other people. Because there will be one day you'll either change units or get out, and they'll be the one in charge, and you want them to be capable of like passing that knowledge on and seeing that example. That's not just like how units rotate through, but like if there was a major conflict, right? You always want to know that someone's capable of replacing you. I'll say if you're a squad leader, an NCO, like your job is to leave the place better than you found it. Train not only to the standard, but train so that your subordinates, team leaders can train others and are capable of passing that knowledge down is a good target to aim for, to like leave that place better than you found it. And then just like sometimes the best thing and easiest thing you can do is just let people feel heard. So if you have soldiers going through a hard time, frustration, you can both be an advocate for them, help them out, but at least they know that you've got your back. Like I've had both good leaders and bad leaders when I was like a squad leader and a soldier. So like that's just my perspective.
Well, we appreciate it, man. Eric, thank you for coming on so much. We know you're busy. You're running 2 pages, websites, real job. Like, holy shit, dude. But we appreciate you coming on, and do your plug real quick. Tell the people where they can find you and your link tree, your crazy link tree that I am gonna lose another couple hours on probably in the next couple days.
That's gonna eat some time up for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The War Meals Project, you can find it on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at War Murals. Warmurals.com is a great way to find some of the photos and hear some of the story. And then I'll do a plug for Patrol Base Abate. If you served and you're looking for connection, I nerd out in the book club, but they got other options where you're not just uniting for a like drinking club at the VFW, right? But it's mostly based around like one single activity. If you love hiking, fishing, book reading, there's like martial arts groups there. That's a really good opportunity to connect with vets with low pressure, low stakes. If you have questions about that, let me know. And they also support the the book club, and Lethal Minds Journal. So if you're looking for an option to develop your writing skills, want to post like your feelings of either like shared knowledge that you want to preserve somewhere, of like, shared training knowledge, or provide like your memoir, perspective, poetry, it's a really great place, and an awesome group of dudes that run that page. So check them out. But help each other out, be good. Life's hard enough as it is, so help each other out.
All right. Thanks again, Eric. We appreciate you. Make sure you guys check out the War Murals project at his website, Instagram. Follow us. Check out our merch on our website. You guys know where we're at by now.
Thanks everybody for listening. We just rolled out a whole bunch of new stuff. So bunker-bros.com. Go and check that out. If you're a construction worker, we just released the Chemlight collection, a bunch of very fairly priced stuff that you guys can tear the hell out of and not feel guilty that you just destroyed a nice, expensive shirt. So need some high vis. Bunker Bros has high vis now.
Incoming.